Hey everybody, welcome to Storytime with John and Friends. I'm your host, John. Today we have a very special episode for you. I've been a fan of this guy for as long as I can remember, middle school days. It was really great to meet him, have a conversation with him, hear, a lot of what he had to say. It was a great look into his band. You may know him from He Is Legend. He is the frontman of the band, and this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this conversation. Please welcome Schuylar Croom.
You were pissing neon green every day.
That big ball of heat in the sky was too much. I thought there was a bear.
Reality goes, yeah, fresco. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome to
Welcome to
Storytime.
Storytime.
Schuylar, thank you so much for joining the show, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I've been a fan since middle school, so this is very cool for me.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. How was your day today?
I'm not at liberty to say.
That's totally fair.
It's been pretty wild. I'm part of a artist kind of commune space up here, like a workspace, and we're currently moving. So there's a lot of moving situations going on.
Okay.
I've been DJing vinyl as like a side quest lately, and they recently just switched my days from like slow service industry Mondays to Thursday night. So last night it was like I had to actually be on my toes and like make people dance, which was really fun.
Okay.
I don't even know how I got into this. It just kind of fell in my lap over like the last year, and I've always collected vinyl, and one day I kind of turned around and was like, I don't even listen to this stuff. So when we were rehearsing for I Am Hollywood, I opened an old copy of I Am Hollywood for the first time and put it on my turntable, and like had a very like strange experience meeting my younger self in my own living room, and like listening to an album that I rarely ever listened to because it's always been cringe. It's like, your young self. And so listening to it for the first time on vinyl was a visceral experience. And I had like a breakdown halfway through. It was just like, wow, I still respect this kid. I still have just like, I could hear things that I was saying back then that I still agree with. And, for nearly 19 years, we always tried to shy away from that record because of every connotation that was attached to it, what we thought the scene was then versus now. There was just so much wrapped up in it. And oddly, no one, we never used to write records and play them front to back. That's just that's kind of a new thing. So getting into that, like the flow of the record live was surprising. We play a half step down in tuning, so it's still not like tuned to standard like we normally wrote it. So there's a thickness with it, like there's a good live feeling to it. It's just all around positive. Everything that happened this year was really awesome as far as like just reintroducing ourselves to this 20-year-old sound,
Absolutely.
It's been really fun, really, really fun. And we're so stoked to be able to do it again next, in a few months.
Absolutely.
Back out and do it again.
Yeah, I did see you guys posted another leg of the tour playing that. So what is it, you said just to kind of touch base on listening back to it, like, how does it feel knowing where you were and then where you are now, as far as like, because you guys had a hiatus there for a little while, then you guys came back, and then the success it seems like it kind of, took off because you guys got, more of the radio plays and all that stuff. Like, how does that feel looking back at it now?
Well, none of that stuff resonated in the moment. When it was, you get your song played on Fuse and you don't have the wherewithal to like be proud of that. I mean, you're proud of it, but you're all, as a young band, you're supposed to be cutthroat and, reckless.
Mm-hmm.
So in our thought processes, like, it was amazing to see your music video on Fuse, but at the same time, like, MTV was dying. And so we're, we would see our stuff on MTV2 occasionally. It was really cool, but that was dying. By the time that started happening, it was like, nobody plays music videos anymore. You rely on YouTube, we're still in that category. But back then we were not very adept at living in the moment and appreciating what was happening now, because growth is like what you are, the rise as a band in your mind should never stop, until you're like Beatles level, I guess. If you're playing the game of rock and roll, I guess, you're always going to look for an arena at the end, but I think back then we didn't know where we wanted to land. We just wanted to be playing. And that's kind of still our model, that we just want to be playing shows live and like being with our fans, because that's what we've built for ourselves. Back then, I don't know that anything ever really registered as like success for us, because anytime we would take a step up, something would cosmically knock us down, whether it be the hiatus, the pandemic, leaving record labels, losing a booking agent, or switching internally within our team. Things like that, for us, would seem like something you should do to become even more professional, because, punk rock in essence is supposed to be, if it's not protesting something, it should be lighthearted and about like, drinking beer for breakfast. But I think the moral of it is that at the end of the day, as you age, if you make it through, then you are saying something about what you've been through, and you are giving advice as to how to continue. And I feel like now it's, me and Adam and Matt being in our 40s and really leaning into like this elder Hesher, trying to teach the younger generation, like, ways to make your life more easy, or like easier on the road, but also more beneficial for mental health, and like things you can do for yourself that you might not realize are sort of detrimental, and will certainly show up in your later life if you decide to stick with the nomadic road life. There will always be issues. I don't know. I've never met a man or woman who has ever lived through it with no scars. You know what I mean?
Right.
Physically, something will get its hook in you and stay with you, and you'll have to adapt your touring schedule, your rehearsal schedule, your life outside of the road to adapt to this thing. Everybody feels like Superman with a guitar on, like on stage, people like enjoying your set. There's a level of like indestructible quality to you that like it takes getting knocked down a few pegs for you to learn, and you got to eat shit. You got to play a bad show. You got to have your friends tell you like you should rehearse more, like things like that. Constructive criticism can go so much further with an open mind than, but you have to find that open mind first. I don't think it's something that you gain without a Rhodes scholar's knowledge,
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny too, cause I toured for years, but never, at the level that you guys have, obviously, but, it's when you're out there, it's like, it's just you and the road, and you kind of like leave everything at home. But when you get home, it's like, there's, it's still there. You got to come back to it. So
there's I think it was John Lennon they asked him what he does when he gets home, and he says he collapses. There's everybody who's ever done more than 2 weeks on the road knows this, like there's a there's a window of time. I think it's about 3 shows before you feel like you are unstoppable.
Right. Yeah.
And everyone's locked in. And we call it tour boots. You got your tour boots on. That lasts about, I would say, just at 3 weeks. And then there's another phenomenon that starts, which is like you're locked in, but you're not paying attention. And that can ebb and flow from each show. You know, it could be so much as just like having a headache that day. You know, we wear our emotions on our sleeve a lot because we're artists, we're sensitive. And we have to be coddled. And I think that's why Legend works, because we've grown up together. We're still friends, and we know when to leave the other person alone, you know, when we need our space. It doesn't always have to be addressed. The problem doesn't always have to be beat into the ground and discussed until it's over. It's just a matter of recognizing that somebody else's emotions were affected, and you should change that about yourself in order to keep this working the right way. I mean, we certainly have sit down, come to Jesus meetings, but often the internal, like, whatever pettiness is recognized as being silly immediately, and then we move on from there. But we are very much a family. We very much are closer like brothers than we are like friends. So we work well in that tight net, being in a van for 64 hours, driving from coast to coast. Like, we can do that. We can turn off and feel like we're not around each other because it's been 20 years. Other bands, not so much. I mean, egos they get wide and they get deep, and they don't fit in the van anymore. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that thought that has to go into this after a certain amount of time, when you have so much wrapped up into your friendship, into your life together, that you have to be very careful. It's a delicate balance in order to stay happy. You know, happiness is the key on the road. I think any amount of depression is amplified. Substance abuse amplifies depression. It's a cycle. And in order to do it right, you have to really have some training and have some like understanding of your fellow band members and your own personal, I guess, breadcrumbs and eggshells that you have out. Being self-aware, I guess, is
absolutely. And it's really healthy too, for like, and to have those boundaries as well, you know.
Totally.
And with that, obviously, you know, that's what makes it possible to go 20 years doing the same thing, you know.
We set some boundaries pretty early in our career too, which I think has hindered us in a lot of ways. But the fact that we stick to those is integrity, you know. Certain things we can't do as a band, especially with like certain health issues. We've had to turn down some offers. We've had to say no to some tours that the routing was grueling, you know, because I have a lot of health issues that affect my day-to-day life, and compounding those with the stress of tour exacerbates what's happening to me. So we have to do everything differently now since the pandemic. Things are just, we work as a team to see if all aspects of being on the road is going to benefit us, not just monetarily, but benefit our health, our mental stability, you know. So we sometimes are hyper meticulous about drives and days off and where we are and what, you know, like what the route will be for us. Do we have a 12-hour overnight drive? Like, then we're going to protest that, because that could bring on problems that last days. Certain things like that we would have never thought to do, or even had the wherewithal to acknowledge back when we were younger. Certainly has been thrust upon us, you know, to have to pay attention to certain things. So does
that, I'm sorry to cut you off, but does that kind of bleed into the writing process for you guys? Like what's that like?
I don't think it ever did before, but it certainly did over the pandemic, because that was the first time that we had I feel like we had something to say, because we felt like we were I mean, this is nothing against anyone that worked for us at the time, but it was a stark revelation when White Bat, like we felt high off of White Bat for years, even into the writing of Endless Hallway, which was a pandemic album. We felt shortchanged because we felt this meteoric rise with Jesse on a record finally. And people had been seeing him live for a couple years, you know, and knowing that like, oh, this is it. This is their guy. And we felt it. We were saying it. And we had to get him on a record. And so when White Bat finally came out, it seemed like it was like people would finally know that we were back in like a big, strong way. And that was proven and shown through the record. I think like White Bat was arguably like it's my favorite record of ours. For a concept album, I was heavily involved in the artwork for the first time. There's a lot of really big watermarks for that album. And we got maybe 3/4 of the way through a tour with While She Sleeps, and we were called home from the road on March 12th, was my birthday of 2020 or 2020. And that was it. Like they told us to go home, and we were home for 2.5 years. Throughout that, we started writing just organically. And it was like, I guess we should just make a record, because we're not touring, we're not playing. We toyed with the idea of doing a live stream, but it just seemed like too on the nose for like a COVID event. Right. And seen some go really well. I had seen some that like I kind of cringed at, and I'm not really a prepper at all. I kind of run into artistic endeavors blindly, so it was a different process because I had something to say about White Bat. I had something to say about Turmoil and just the way that everything was going, and our band was so strong, you know, so there wasn't a down period in COVID. They, you know, Jesse and Adam just continued to pump ideas out together. And then it was like trudging through really brackish water to get out of where we were. And my recording process vocally in Nashville was one of the darkest, banging my head against the wall, trying to just find where I was. I had no voice for what was going to be said. I just knew I was angry. Right. And a lot of that stuff kind of wrote itself in the studio, which is not really how I'm used to working. But there was turmoil. Like Matt was really sick when they were tracking guitars or drums. Tracking guitars in Carolina was like arduous, and there was just because of the times, you know, everybody was in a dark spot over COVID, so it didn't feel like we were gonna get much sing-songy, bright, chorusy vibes on Endless Hallway, you know. Right. Yeah, so that writing process seemed a lot different than we've ever had. White Bat was very organic, and just, you know, we were having fun. You know, we were having a lot of fun and ready to play tour on this record. But Endless Hallway, we didn't know if we were ever going to be able to play it. Like, I mean, right. we were permanently pulled from the road with like no shows in sight. And then it wasn't until we went out with Attila that we really got back into being on the road. And it took a while to feel normal, you know, like, I mean, I don't know if this is something you'll cut out, but I mean, I know the first time I like shared a joint with somebody backstage was like, should I be doing this?
Right.
Like, yeah. So much, you know, you get so much information that's true and false and skewed. And then you let it live in your head or not? And that was one of the things. I'm like, well, where am I? Like, where am I from now that I was? Why am I in a different place now because of the sickness? Like, just smoke a joint with a fan. It's a fun experience for both of us, you know?
Absolutely,
so like, yeah. So there's things like that I had to like push fear out, you know, and I don't think that's far away from how I felt in the studio, like trying to get rid of this terror that it seemed unreal, like seemed like it shouldn't be there. And what we really wanted to get back to was just being a band playing. So not knowing that Endless Hallway would ever see the light of day or what would happen, we were just kind of trying to play, you know, just play along and be like, well, right, we can do that without being on the road.
Right.
We're all very happy with what came out of that. Endless Hallway was really fun and cool. It's a really tough record to play. And we kind of, because it was the end of our contract with Spine Farm, we were given a little bit more liberties with like what we did with the music video. Was like, it was pretty bananas. It was a couple of months of just a bunch of film workers that were off work due to the strike. And we just got in here and went crazy in this warehouse. I mean, like, this is where we did the music videos.
That's awesome.
You know, you can maybe see that blue patch over there. There's some clouds. So that's just been there for 2 years, you know, awesome. Like, it's just like half the stuff is over in a box over there, like the puppets and the skulls and everything that was in there is now just like parceled up and put in this artist warehouse that's moving next door.
Right.
So, interesting. All of the things that came out of like, from when Jesse started and we kind of had a new lease on the band. There's so much that's come out of it that's been positive, even in a very negative year. The year 2004 into 2005, I Am Hollywood came out in November, you know, so the spillover was most of 2005. And so that's why we were like, well, this is exactly the time period that we were doing this. The legs switching over. It's like, it's a really interesting thing. There's a lot of interesting, positive things popping out of our camp just in this 20-year anniversary, feeling good. Everybody's like a better version of themselves. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the growth and everything that you guys have gone through, you know,
dude,
as people.
Yeah, as people, but also as a band. Like, I cannot tell you how bizarre it is that the I Am Hollywood 20-year anniversary was the biggest tour Legend's ever been on. That's bananas. And we're getting more fans, and our fans are getting younger for this album, which is that I don't think that happened to me as a young kid. Like, I wasn't going out chasing a 20-year anniversary tour of a band that I got into too late. You know what I mean? Like, we're meeting like, and granted, a lot of it is organic through their parents. Like, you know, a kid that I've known since he was 16 is now in his 30s with a child who's coming to our shows. And that circle of music fandom has been lost on me until very, very recently. I guess maybe the anniversary and the fact that people were showing up in such, you know, great numbers, it kind of blew my mind, because it proved that like what we did when we were kids had a long lasting effect. There's longevity, that somebody's going to listen to this record when I'm dead, you know, like, and that is, I guess that was kind of a full circle moment for me. I remember exactly where I was. I was at the Paper Tiger and we were playing with Thursday. And right before we went on, I was like, God, man, Thursday rules. Look at all these people. Just halfway thinking that like everybody would be checked out during our set, even though we were right before Thursday. And it was just a very powerful show. I loved Thursday as a young kid. It might have been one of the first like emo bands to really thrash me out, you know. There's Thursday has this this thing about them to where their imperfections as a band are what make them great.
Right.
Jeff is like such an inspiration. I don't know him personally, but like there's a lot of things about that band that I think they could be called like the Little Richard of punk and hardcore,
Right.
and bridge the gap of what emo really meant from like a band like Orchid that's like truly emo in a hardcore, post-hardcore sense, to Thursday, who is like this fresh hot topic emo, but they're the best at doing it,
Right.
and they're the first to give us the liberty to do it. So there are bands like that when I was standing side stage before we went on, just going on and having their crowd accept us and knowing that they were also our crowd, I mean, that
exactly.
it was like, these people like music and they like both our bands. And we're like, I don't know, it just like, it spoke to me in that very instance that like, oh, we're allowed to be here. Like, this isn't a fluke that we're on this bill. This is the right spot for us. And it just felt good, and it was the first big show we had played since COVID. It was a room we had played a million times as kids. It's called the White Rabbit back then. It's called the Paper Tiger now in San Antonio, Texas. The people there, at the staff, everything, it was just like everything made for a perfect show, perfect bill. And, it was right around Halloween, like no whammies. It's just a great night, and when bands have those nights, like a real win, it will help you level up, it will help you. It'll reassure you that you're on the right track,
Right.
The universe winking back at you.
Absolutely. And it's it's paying you back in that sense too.
100%.
Right? Yeah.
And that is the only, like, we might be able to pay our bills once we get on the road. But when we're at home, we all have ways to make ends meet,
Right.
I mean, the road can sustain us if we're playing 6 days a week, but that's also grueling.
Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of lessons to be learned if you want to succeed. But the reward is just knowing that that there is a payoff, and the payoff is in fans and friends and life experience,
Absolutely. Yeah. So do you still get excited, like, maybe not excited, but like, for instance, the Thursday tour, you were like, this is a huge tour. Like, do you still have that kind of mindset when you jump on certain tours?
That was one show and we were like, fuck yes.
Okay.
There are bands right now that we would drop everything to go out with and take a pay cut to be on the road with.
Right.
There's certain bands that lately, like our Hootenanny, we were able to offer a few reunion shows to some bands that were really meaningful to us. The headlining tour, we were able to bring out one of our favorite bands of all time, Code 7. They just put out a phenomenal record. And they're literally a band that inspired us as kids.
Okay.
So to be able to bring them out and listen to them every night, I listen to that band in my free time. They are a great band, very spacey rock stuff. They're on Equal Vision. They are one of the most important bands from North Carolina, in my opinion. And, we asked them to go on this tour, half thinking they'd say no. They said yes. And we would, it's things like that, again, that's a payoff. Whereas before it would have been a pipe dream to say, man, we should tour with Code 7, but we were actually able to offer them a slot and like bring them with us, which to me is like, that's some of the most important things that can come out of music, is the relationships made. I mean, obviously, like 9 Inch Nails, Queens of the Stone Age, Foo Fighters, we would do anything. Metallica, like these are,
yeah.
I'm sure most bands pay money to get on. We've never paid to be on a tour, but I'm sure that's like upper echelon kind of things. We would, no question, right? We would maybe do it for free, but yeah, there are bands within the scene that I think we would all be very, just giddy to be like, I cannot believe we're doing this.
I love that.
The biggest band I think that we were all kind of weary about going out with, but we were like, how could you pass this up, is Gwar. And I'll tell you what, if any band listening to this, anyone in a band ever has the opportunity to go on the road with Gwar or even see them live, like, you will learn more about music and theater and the industry and professionalism from Gwar than any other band. I wholeheartedly believe that. I went into that tour knowing 0 Gwar songs. I went out not only a Gwar fan, but like kind of knowing a lot about the process. And
right.
I'm a theater kid. I was in theater tech in high school. I've worked in film since 2009. Watching them set up every day, run their show, it is more like theater than rock and roll. And they deserve everything they've ever gotten. I mean, except for the bad stuff, they deserve all the good that's ever come to them.
Yeah.
And because they have a documentary you can watch, I know for sure, on Shudder. It's called This Is Gwar, and if you haven't seen it, their story is phenomenal, and it's just a very inspiring thing. But when we left for that tour, I was selling merch and singing. We didn't have any crew, and it was a winter tour through Canada. Okay. So frozen Gwar blood on everything. Like,
yeah.
Everything has like a really cold pink sheen to it. And I left that tour being such a fan. It was such an uplifting time. It was very grueling, but like those are the tours where you might not be very excited to go, but when your eyes are open to a culture and like Gwar is like, it's something all its own. Like their merch table is the size of a Spencer's Gifts,
right.
And like the things that they do is beyond music, beyond theater. It bridges the two things. It's art school, it's like, it's your weird friend's comic books that's drawn in a notebook. There's something that after playing with Gwar, I'm like, why can't we spray things on people? I was like, you're not allowed. There's certain bands that are allowed to hide behind a mask and do this thing. There are certain bands that do it that I don't think are allowed to do it. Right. There are bands that do it and they do it kind of, but it's fine. And then there are bands that do it and it's badass. Gwar is at the top of that list.
Absolutely. I used to work at a venue here in Buffalo, and and
you hate them. Everybody.
No, I loved it. It was when they would perform, it was just so fun. Like like you're saying, like the theatrical part of it.
Yeah.
When Trump comes out and fights Hillary and like all that crazy shit that they do, it's just like they're giving you a glimpse into their brain of like what they think is funny and
right.
And
right? The thing is, they don't have to tell you it's a joke.
Right.
Like, and they're not saying it from stage in a preachy way. They're aliens from another planet.
Exactly.
Who kill indiscriminately.
Yes.
They so happen to want to kill the political heads and the oligarchs and the billionaires. And it's so smart. And when
Absolutely.
you talk to these guys and you meet these guys who are spraying alien cum on a crowd through a 3-dicked prosthetic.
Yeah.
They're teachers and they're kind and they're gentle and they have really, really smart things to say. And they are not giving you themselves unless you give them a part of yourselves.
Absolutely.
And those are the humans that I gravitate towards. I like artists of any medium. And when I was younger, I had a teacher in high school that forced me to read On the Road by Jack Kerouac because she said she knew I wasn't going to come to class. So she said, you don't have to come to class. You will read this book and you will do your senior paper and I'll pass you. She clocked me, right? She knew I was an individual.
Right.
And she kind of knew where I wanted to be in life. So she forced beat poetry on me. You know what I mean? And like changed my life. I kind of like look back and want to be like, you're sneaky, you know, like, but that learning about that gave me a taste for like, because like Kerouac and Ginsberg and all these people that in this generation in the 60s, like it was about the conversation. It was about like mixing it up and what did this person have to say, being open-minded, learning from other people. And I don't know, that kind of shake it up, sit around and talk about things seems to be lost with the internet, like
right.
social groups and like, you know, poetry readings. Yeah, sure, it still happens, but like it's hokey now. It's niche for whatever community. So
right.
I think things like that. I mean, that's my favorite part of still being a rocker, you know, is like I still get to meet these young kids or see a band that like I'm envious of, or I like really, really like and want to get to know. Just recently, I don't know if you're into that band. They're fairly new, or not new, but they're younger kids. Show Me the Body. Have you heard of them?
I have, yes.
I saw them at Furnace Fest and like I fell in love. I went and bought their vinyl and was just like talking to them the way kids talk to us, you know?
Right, yeah.
So it's like I see that part of myself where I can still get giddy over a young band, even though I honestly could not tell you. I couldn't point to bands that Show Me the Body is inspired by. Right. I know they're inspired by hip hop, which we're very inspired by hip hop. I can get that in their music. I can get a lot of I could maybe guess, but I don't want to. It's like I see a guy with a banjo. I hear these like wompy kind of electro sounds, and their fucking drummer is just bashing a little like, you know, rocker kit. And my jaw was on the floor for their whole show. It's been so long since that's happened, you know? But that's what I want from being on the road. Like my life won't feel as complete if I am not inspired by other artists
right
while I travel. Cause that's part of your learning experience is the artistry and mundane things. When you're on the road, you're looking for inspiration constantly, and the highway system in America ain't it, you know? I mean, if you've gone
absolutely,
what you see off the exit is the same in every single town in America.
Yeah,
that's not the case in other countries. But those are the things where like America's not that inspiring on the highway. You know, I mean, it takes, you'll hit a few cities where you'll see some cool things, but like your destination and what America really is are these rural towns where there's a Walmart, a Wendy's, a McDonald's, and a Pilot and Flying J. And that's America. That is America. The Walmart's 2 miles down. The Chili's is across the street.
Right.
That's America. And that's not that inspiring, but you go to these cities where like, you know, these cities that have mascots, you know, and they are, I think Patton Oswalt said it's like a place where you can buy a sandwich with a song, you know, like your Austin and Portland and whatnot. You can see, you get into the cities and you get the inspiration you're looking for, you know, no matter what city it is, you can find it. Those are the things I think are my favorite thing about the road is like mom and pop restaurants and, you know, one owner gas stations and little roadside attractions. Like that's the stuff later in life I like, you know, like I would much rather stay at an RV park where I can pet a dog than a hotel where the guy in the elevator with me is not going to look me in the eye because I've got neck tattoos, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's like any performance performances are great, but it's the experience. And it's like even, it sounds like you're saying like even just traveling while you're touring, it's about the experience, something that you can grasp onto. And that's
rest in peace, David Lynch. Keep your eye on the donut and not the hole. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? It's important to be present in the moment, especially in times of when you're in a band, you have 2 appointments that day, 3 maybe if you want to count getting in the van.
Mm-hmm.
But your first appointment is load in and sound check, which are coupled hand in hand. That could take an hour, maybe 2, depending on if you run a lot of tracks, you got a lot of stuff to check, whatever. We've got 2 guitars, a bass, drums, and a vocals. So our sound checks are pretty short, but then depending on the show, we're waiting around 24 hours for a 30-minute to a 1 hour and 15-minute set. And we live 24 hours a day waiting for that time, you know? And at that time, that's when all of the magic and the inspiration and the excitement rumbles and rises to a head. The rest of that time, your 23 hours and 15 minutes are or 21 hours and 15 minutes are waiting.
Right.
And filling your time with either something on the internet, a book, a hobby, but other than that, you are stuck in a spot watching trees go by and watching McDonald's signs pass by. And that's it. There are no there's no interesting, occasionally you'll see something grand, and that just changes in landscape, which if you don't care about the waving fields of grain, if you don't care about that, it's not going to hit you until I will never forget one time Adam literally said that sentence to me from the Star Spangled Banner as we're driving through Iowa. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Amber fields of grain." And I was just it was a beautiful thing to hear at that moment, because the sun was hitting it at the right time. They're waving. And I hold on to that. It's been 15 years maybe, but those are the things that once you hit a certain age and the city isn't an inspiring place anymore, it's actually a cold, hard, lonely place. And you start to find it in other areas. You start to look for it on billboards or graffiti or, I love graffiti. Even I've been hanging out with a graffiti artist for a couple of years now, and just his work and his, he helped with the music video. Watching him with a spray paint can I could do it all day. It's something I can't do. So watching it is entertaining to me, so lately I got a Polaroid camera. I take on tour a lot, and I've just been popping off graffiti shots, and I've got a big collection now of stuff. And I didn't know I was doing this. It just inadvertently, when I'm looking back through, I'm oh, I take a lot of pictures of graffiti. I guess that's my thing. So
I love that.
I've just been I've been doing that now since that one light switch of hey, you like doing that. Now I seek it out, and we'll go on a walk with my camera, because I know a mile back before we got to the club, there was a cool wall, Mm-hmm. But those things I think will start to wink at you once you start. It's when you get a green Volvo, and then every car you pass, every second car.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's weird how that happens. Is there so when you're feeling homesick or, down on the road, is there anything that you can do or that you do to kind of hone you in and, maybe cheer you up or anything like that?
Yeah. I think at this point, I don't necessarily get homesick, because I equate it with fishing, you throw your reel out, and then about how far you threw it, so how long it'll take to reel it back in. So we bank our expectations and our emotions off of the amount of time ticking down on the timer. I feel like we've done it enough now that a hotel room is kind of home, so homesick isn't necessarily, because we don't jump from one tour to another. I haven't felt that in a very long time.
Okay.
Like I've longed for being at home with my lover and my cats, and but I don't think I don't think we've been on the road long enough in over a decade that we've been like, man, I am just homesick. But I will tell you, when the anonymity of a hotel room starts to weigh on you, and just the grind of it all, on a day off in the summer, we will look for a way. Usually we bring a grill, and we like to, I love to cook. It's like my passion other than music. I've been cooking my whole life, and I'm really good at it. I'm a home chef, I love it. And so anytime that we get an opportunity on a day off to have a kitchen, Adam, Matt, and I we're all really, really into food and diet and just cooking in general, though we all share very different dietary restrictions. We do this thing called hobo bags, which may be derogatory, but I think hobo is a pretty normal word. I don't think anybody's offended by it. So a hobo bag is 2 pieces of aluminum foil in a cross.
Okay.
And you spray it with some oil, and then you just pile as many vegetables as you can in a little pile. And so the band would buy the vegetables, and each dude would get whatever kind of meat he would want or protein within the bag. You put that on top, add a few spices, some more oil, wrap it up real tight, first layer and then second layer. And then everybody writes their initial on the bag down onto the coals on a fire. And 45 minutes to an hour, you have a steaming pile of it's so rustic, and it feels like you're a hobbit in a shire, there's certain vegetables that are always a must. You got to have potatoes, okra, Swiss chard is always great because you want some sort of green, or kale. I like to do rutabaga, dice that up really, and peppers, onions. And there's one more thing. So I like to do a brat or a sausage or something on top, but very, very lightly seasoned, salt and pepper, oil. Sometimes I use I'll throw a hot sauce in afterwards, but you really just want char, fire, and veggies.
Right.
And man, there's something about that just recharges our souls. Everyone will tell you the hobo bag is something essential. It probably has more to do with the fact that we're eating at a gas station,
right,
90% of the day. So on a day off, we will more than likely force ourselves to eat well, rest more, and hydrate, because no matter what you're doing at a show, you're going to sweat out a lot of that liquid. So on your days off, it's get more water in you than normal.
Right.
Try to relax. I try to go see a movie. I love going to the movies by myself. So as far as being homesick or mad or pissy or a little just off, the theater is always my cure on tour. It's air conditioned, dark. I could take a nap if I wanted to.
Right.
Big bucket of popcorn. I'm by myself. I'm turning my phone off. I get an hour and a half of just sitting in front of a screen.
Just kind of reset.
Dude, that is my hack. And for that, I have Movie Pass, so I pay $10 a month. I can see 3 movies a month. It's who wouldn't do that if you like going to the movies?
Absolutely.
So that's a good way to just get away from the band. If for some reason we're nagging each other, getting on each other's nerves a little bit, I'll just take off and try to find a theater or a thrift store or a record shop just to lose myself in for an hour and not be worried about normal day-to-day in and outs,
Do you guys have any pre-show rituals?
No,
No?
no, there's
Just-
nothing that we do. I mean, everybody has their own little like warm up scenario, but
Okay.
nothing as a band that we ever like. We don't sing a song and
Put
say
your hands
on three.
in the middle.
I've always thought that would be cool. There was a little while where I was trying to sing. I was trying to sing something because I had seen some band on like a documentary, like they would sing something before they went on, kind of like an Irish drinking chant,
Oh, okay.
I always thought that would be badass, but what would it even mean if we started it late in the game? You know what I mean? Like,
It's
like you can't just start
you're
that
trying
in your
to force
40.
it.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna sing "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Ready? On three.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I
what-
mean, I have my own personal rituals. I think that there's another timer of anxiety that pops on me where while the band directly before us is on, I cannot sit still. I can't be in the venue. I have to be in perpetual motion. So I'll be walking or pacing or on a staircase. I just have a lot of nervous energy that I keep in my solar plexus. So like I have to be moving forward. And normally during that time, I'll be like doing some semblance of a warm up. But Josh Moore from Beloved used to say my warm up was like putting out my cigarette and taking a shot of whiskey and going on stage. But that was how it used to be for many years.
Are you still indulging quite a bit drinking on tour, or has that kind of died down over the years?
I've been sober for 2.5 years from alcohol.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. Maybe even more. I don't know. I got really sick, so I didn't, it wasn't inadvertently, it became about alcohol in general and how I'm not into it anymore.
Okay.
But no, lots of coffee, lots of cigarettes.
Okay.
Those are my vices. And I don't know, alcohol for me, it became part of my illness. I have diabetic gastroparesis, so there was a while over the pandemic where I was getting sick and like physically ill for days at a time. And I had to go through tons of tests. I got my gallbladder removed, and come to find out it's a what's it called? A complication of diabetes type 1.
Okay.
And so with that, I cut out alcohol, like pretty much the first thing I stopped. And I work at a bar. It's not really been difficult. There's a lot of emotions tied up in alcohol and my family and friends. So it's like, it was easy to walk away from it. It's, it doesn't really give you, there's no real benefit from it, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I kind of, when it was like, hey, do you want to feel better or do you want to keep drinking because you have beer in your fridge? It's like easy answer. So yeah, I have been off booze for a while. So is Matt. Jesse doesn't drink that much. Yeah. So we're not like, none of us really have huge issues with that.
That's great.
I think our main issue is Whole Foods. I think like that's the one place everybody can get satiated. And it's so expensive.
It really is.
That's our thing now that we complain about. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to pay $25 for a box of food that's not very good. But yeah, like I think that that's another thing on the road where it's like we have a ton of people with dietary restrictions. So like our restaurant choices have changed over the years. I mean, we might split up for barbecue and, things like that. Or, as you get older, it's like more like a family road trip where you have a lot of planning. You get excited about little silly things. You get to see friends you've seen for 20 years that you might see 3 times a year. So, those are the things you start to look forward to, but those are what make touring precious,
right. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, it's such a precious thing. And it's changed since COVID a lot. And I don't even know how to describe what has changed, but I think any band will tell you it's like nondescript thing that's different. Maybe it's just appreciation, maybe
Right.
it's that everybody is not taking it for granted anymore. But there has been a shift, it seems, in the music scene since the pandemic, where appreciation and crowd participation, all these things seem to be like at a threshold, of people are just excited to have their bands back and
Right.
getting music constantly now. I think that's something we can all agree on, is that like the inspiration that came out of the last 5 years it's only from the darkness that's been going on, because we've been in a really dark world.
Right. Yeah. You kind of touched base a little bit on White Bat, and I did have a question here that I wanted to ask you. So often there's a sense of myth or fantasy in your music.
Yeah.
Do you view the stories and characters in your songs as metaphors for like personal experiences, or do they exist purely in like a separate imaginative realm?
Lyrically, all of that is character based.
Okay.
When I mean, granted, if I'm telling a story through another person, most of that is coming from life experience. But for me, I always liked, again, I've been a cinephile my whole life. I grew up in the horror section at Blockbuster, tangible media has always been important to me. So yeah, obviously some of our songs are purely about like past relationship or experience. But if I'm talking about a scenario that's whimsical or fantastical, in my mind, it is quite literally the cartoon image that I'm painting.
Okay.
And I like for it to be that. White Bat especially is all within a universe that is supposed to be played as like a man having a conversation with himself about his wrongdoings. And that only morphed into what it was because I was reading a book about the Golden State Killer in California, visiting these crime scenes out of just searching for inspiration, going to like really kind of morbid places, and writing there and reading there. And within that time, they caught him. They caught Joseph James D'Angelo, and I just lost my shit. And
was it the book that kind of that Patton Oswalt's wife wrote?
Yes, yeah.
So that she helped them like find him, right?
And she passed away before the book was published.
Right.
So there was a lot like those kind of things, those little like cosmic spark things that happen. That's some of the most inspiring. That's some of the most inspiring content I can gain. Especially because like I left knowing that I wanted it to kind of have this true crime vibe. We had been discussing the cover for a while. I had this idea of it looking like a Gideon's Bible in a hotel. Like you pull out, this was literally the conversation I had with Matt Ryan Tobin. We were talking about artwork before I started making any lyrical marks to what I had initially come in with. But I was like, I want this album to feel like you found a Bible in a dirty hotel dresser drawer, but when you picked it up, it was this story about this guy.
Okay.
And the White Bat is his moniker, and you basically got like a tale as old as time, but it was about this thing. And so that kind of log line with Matt Ryan Tobin just opened up this world. And as I was talking to him about the character and like what I thought it was, he was asking me for like sketches. And I was like, well, I used to draw this and that and the other. And so I did a few doodles and like some random things. And they ended up in the artwork because he was like, yeah, dude, this is great. We're just going to use this drawing you did, and I'll just, throw some glitter on it and it'll be great. So then I was like, well, what if I took some Polaroids and we incorporated them? So I like brought the dudes over to the house and took some Polaroids of them and sent them to them. And like, what came out of that was my favorite album artwork, short of Endless Hallway, which is also Matt Ryan Tobin expounding on the White Bat idea. Right. So, there's just so much inspiration that's come over the last couple of years from that. I'm sorry, I've been rambling on tangent.
Oh, you're fine. I love it.
But yeah, I think those things are like, that's what still gets me jazzed. That's why I'm excited right now. We're writing now, and it's like, I haven't heard anything. The boys have only met up a few times, and our process everything just kind of builds from skeleton to human. And so yeah, that for me, I'm just like, what are we gonna do? We could do anything. We have no record label. We have no, like the door is wide open right now. So
right.
Who knows what we're gonna do? Will we release it ourselves? Well, I mean, we've already done the crowdfunding thing way back when with Few, and I don't know if I would ever want to do that route again. But yeah, we have a very interesting kind of free agent opportunity right now where, do we want to try to sign with another record label? Do we want to be fully independent? Like, how do we navigate the future? Right. So that is also inspiring, connecting with this present moment of like, we don't have anything, but we have one tour next year. We're leaving the rest open for writing. If something comes along and like the Deftones need us to open for them, then we will be there. But short of that, I think it's like time for us to get back into the studio and like not be hindered by a pandemic, not be hindered by the fact that like we don't have a member playing that recorded. That was where we were. Sorry, for Few, Jesse signed on with Legend at the beginning of the Few album cycle when our drummer Sam left. Jesse did not record that album, but he played every live show for Few. Right. So I grew up playing drums, and drums are my favorite part of He Is Legend. Regardless, I play off the drummer. I play with the drummer, like vocally. I think as a drummer, so my things are normally going to be more rhythmic and staccato with percussion. And having Jesse, I mean, Jesse's my favorite drummer. Like, like short of Abe Cunningham, or like short of the Deftones drummer, right. Jesse is like my favorite ripper and one of my fastest friends. And I feel like White Bat was like, we were still learning how to work together, and Endless Hallway had all these speed bumps. So now we're in kind of a open world scenario where we can record how we want, unhindered, take our time because we are not answering to a label, and just produce an album on our own that is, again, another He Is Legend record, because the format's never been broken down. We've always written the same way. So, I think we're all really excited about just getting some songs under our belt, just for the possibility of where are we going to record this, or are we going to do it the same way we always have?
Absolutely.
I'm excited about those possibilities and scenarios, and working with friends, just all of those things are what keep us young.
Absolutely. And as a drummer, I do want to say it's very cool to hear that explanation. Like, you play along with the drums vocally and everything, because the first thing I listen to when I listen to a record is the drums, and then I listen again and I listen to everything else, But it's that mentality. Like, I really appreciate that, because personally growing up, I've been playing for 30 years now, and it's that I love that. I just love to hear that.
I've we've toured with millions of bands over the years, and when you've got the difference between like just a drummer's drummer
Mm-hmm.
and an animal drummer, and Jesse's
Right.
an animal drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and Jesse has charisma, and he's smart, and he's like, he's a rock star. Jesse's a fucking rock star. I mean, that's all there is to it.
Right.
And you can't tame that down on someone when it's inborn. So like what happens on stage with all of us is this, like, maybe this place that came from somewhere selfish and hungry, but turned into like our personalities, I mean,
Right.
who we've become from playing bad shows and shitty shows and tours that weren't promoted, and things like that put like skin in the game. And then the next time you come back, you have to do something to promote because it wasn't promoted last time, or you have to play a better show because the last show here was terrible, terrible in your own head or for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, adding boundaries to things, it's perfect. But dude, I don't play drums anymore. Every now and then I'll sit behind Jesse's kit and just like bash away for a few minutes, or like at sound check, just play with Adam riffing. And I'll never not have like the utmost respect for somebody who can get back there and play for an hour without missing a beat, like no pun intended, missing a beat. It's really, really impressive to me. And like, I still wish that I had done it. Like maybe someday I'll play in like a little shit band and get to do it again. But yeah, my life until I was probably 17, 18, 19, I was behind the drums.
That's awesome.
About 18 is when I met Adam and started singing with, we were called No One Wins back then. But
Okay.
yeah, so I put the drums behind me the second I met Adam and started singing with him, like just because together we were talking about music and stuff before we even started being in a band. So I just knew I wanted to work with him even before I was able to, and it just kind of organically flew out because we became best friends. And
Right.
And it was just like, why wouldn't we do something like this? But yeah, those things, man, those are the only things that can keep you going,
Right.
like your passion for it, the fact that you had it as a kid, the fact that I still get excited when the first time I heard the White Bat rip, like opening rip for White Bat, I had to like slow it down in my head to try to see how he was doing it before I could even like figure out how I was going to sing it. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, how am I, like, where's the one? Because I couldn't catch the one until, so, I mean, I remember working with that and being like, this guy's going to kill me. But nobody else would have thought that because you don't think vocals are going to like really follow drums. But
Right.
I think of a song like Circus Circus on Endless Hallway. That was Jesse's riff. Like he wrote the riff. I'm pretty sure he came in with like the vibe of the song. And that was my favorite just because it's like, I was able to sneak some like silliness in there. That's always my favorite shit, when I can be tongue in cheek and it still sounds a little badass, like, and I don't feel ashamed of things.
Right.
I think the drums give me liberty to do that because there's whimsy in that, where even in the dissonance of the guitars, like Jesse can do something that makes it childlike and makes me want to do something that would be considered silly until I hear it. And I'm like, no, that's fucking badass. Like,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, you have to you got to pump yourself up with that. You got to have the right people in the studio with you for that, because a vocalist, way different than a drummer. Like the drummer has to hit as hard as he would, like he wants this is the sound for the record, and he's got to hit with his might to get that performance. But a vocalist has to give a performance that is better than the one that will be live, but it also has to embody the live, like what you want it to sound like live is never going to be what it sounds like on the record. So there's like this duality of man that has to be in the studio with you. You also have to create this fake crowd that's listening. You have to know the audience that is listening to that song at that one point. And often Mitchell, my vocal producer or producer he's been with us forever. He knows how to get me out of my own head. You know, he knows how to tell me what version of myself I'm being within the song, especially if it's personal, or if I'm writing and singing with a character in mind, then I have the liberty to make up these voices, you know, and like do these voices, because I do impressions, you know, like I'm fairly good at impersonating mainly my friends, but like I can do certain celebrities and stuff. But
can you do one?
I've been doing David Lynch lately because
that's pretty good.
He has this tone that stays where it is, but it's not rude nor snarky. It's slow because you might not be as smart as me. You see?
Done. I love it.
There's a few people. I love David Lynch, and I'm so sad that he's gone. But he was. I did him earlier. Mainly, I'm better at impersonating my friends, but it's usually behind their back, so I'm not allowed to do that often.
That's great.
But yeah, one day I'm going to work on impression. I'll work them all up, find out who I'm best at, and then I'll just be that person in between each song. That's a thought. I'll have like a prop, pull out like a carrot top wig.
Brilliant. The prop is the wig.
We're working it out.
All right. I have one more question for you before I let you go.
Thanks for letting me ramble on to you.
Absolutely, man. It's my pleasure.
Get me going. I don't stop.
No, absolutely. I've been a fan for so long, so this was a lot of fun for me, and great to meet you and have you on the show.
Yeah, likewise. Are you going to be able to come to any of those shows in March, April?
Unfortunately, I don't think any of them are close enough. And
where are you?
I'm in Buffalo, New York.
Oh yeah. We were trying to get a Buffalo show. And maybe we can have one.
Well, I would love that because I would absolutely be there. That record was so influential to me growing up. So it was, you know.
Thank you. That's always never gets old hearing that, because I can't say enough how far we tried to distance ourselves from it. You know, I mean, you can hear it and suck out the poison, where we were like, we're not that, we're this.
Right.
And then it wasn't till It Hates You until we finally found out who we were as a band. I'll always hear that progression as us like learning, you know.
Absolutely. And the discography as a whole, it's like I like to go back and listen before I have somebody on. I like to go back and listen to basically just the catalog, you know. And it's really cool to listen to I Am Hollywood and then just go straight through and see how the band has progressed and changed over time, and it's flawless. I mean, it's great.
It means a lot. I think that also doesn't happen when you have a lot of member changes. Like I think the sound change is expected, but when they hear 3 or 4 dudes who have been together for 20 years augment their sound, I think that the fans now know it means growth, because for so long our sound would change from record to record and they'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Why do y'all do this? But now with enough catalog out there, you can hear our sound throughout each record.
Absolutely.
And progressed.
Yes.
I can hear that, not being a key musician in the band. I can hear that change each time. And I'm very excited to see what playing I Am Hollywood for a year is going to do to our writing this year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, your own early record may influence your next record.
It already has. I can tell you 100% that this record will be influenced by I Am Hollywood more than anything else.
That's awesome.
Because for a full year now, we have been playing only that.
Right. Yeah.
Almost a year. It'll be about a year. I think we went out in April. So April will be a year that we've been doing it. So it's all cool. There's a lot of number, like, a lot of like syncing up with the digits. Like I think our records came out every 3.5 years for 3 years, or so that was always weird. So yeah, we're gonna work on that. Maybe do a White Bat 5-6 year, whatever. I don't know, however long. We want to play White Bat in its entirety. We've talked about that.
Screw it. Why wait for an anniversary? Just do it.
Just do it. We thought about doing it like and having just like call it the redo, and just having the bat with a mask on and do like the pandemic redo.
Yeah.
And just tour on the album. Just do one tour.
Yeah, you got robbed from giving the record what it deserved as far
really
as touring and everything. So
we really did. And the thing was, when we were about to leave for tour again, it was like coming up. We were like, can we just do White Bat and tour on that? And they were like, nah. Like, I mean, the powers that be were all like, no, you need a new record.
Right.
I was like, wait, people wouldn't come back out to just hear White Bat because it's there. Nah, you got to write a new record. Like, all right, fine. But yeah, I do think there's some unspoken things about White Bat that need to be, some unplayed songs,
some unfinished business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, I got one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. I really appreciate you coming on, Schuylar.
Thank you.
What kind of legacy do you hope He Is Legend leaves behind? Both in terms of the music and the impact on the fans.
Honestly, I just think that whatever that legacy is, it's already been proven to us that it's there, and the fact that we made it 20 years, and everything that happens after this is like reassurance that we didn't fuck up, I guess. Right. that we coddled each other enough, that we were gentle enough with each other, that the band as a whole, like even our original drummer is still very close with the core group, so our legacy wise, I think seeing this year and last year that like I said earlier, like I'm meeting 11, 12, 13, 16, 19-year-old kids that were forced to listen to He Is Legend as children, and they choose to come still.
Right.
Like that to me has like given me this kind of like looking down from the heavens and like seeing these kids in a flash of like, that kid might listen to my band in his 40s while I'm in the fucking dirt. Like, just whatever happens when you die, wherever I am. But there's like, if that happens, then that's the only legacy I care about. I think any other musician would tell you the same. Like if the music lives on, then somehow part of me still lives on.
Absolutely.
In any tangible thing that I've created. I think, any of these people who have gotten these lyric sheets that I bash my head over, like no one is the same. It's just marker on paper, but that thing will be around when I'm gone. And, whatever happens to it, like, cool. That's the mystery. That's the great mystery. But like someone will see it. Someone will let me know from beyond the grave that it happened. I have a feeling that those things you'll be able to know. I don't know how. I don't know what I believe in, but I believe that I don't believe that you turn your back on what's going on here on this planet. I think that you'll still be affected by the energy in some way. And I hope that translates in a positive way with the band, because we put our entire lives into it.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've never been able to turn away and go for more than 6 months at a time without being together in some capacity for He Is Legend. So, those things are all positive and like upspins, and hopefully someday there's just like a really good documentary on all the weird shit that's happened. That's what I want.
Yeah. I honestly, talking with you and listening to what you have to share, you got to write a book, man. Like I would love
Okay.
to read. You got to do it. I know
Done.
there's so many people that would love to read and hear your story and
I've
everything.
been writing a lot of I've been writing for years, but I've been trying to construct a book.
Mm-hmm.
It started off as a cookbook, but I haven't gotten to any recipes yet, and I've written a lot of stuff, so it's definitely not a cookbook, but there might be a few recipes in it.
Right.
I have a dear friend, actually our first merch guy, Will Evans, is a publisher. He publishes Russian literature for Deep Vellum, and in Deep Vellum, he has a bookstore publishing company called Deep Vellum, and he's been making moves since Deep Vellum was still seedy and grimy, and now it's really beautiful place to be. And he's really he's a really important person within Texas, and has always stuck his neck out from us from after he left the band. And Will has asked me numerous times to give him 40,000 words and let him run with it. And I just recently told him last year that I was working on something. So
I would love to read it. I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
That's I need encouragement to do that, because
absolutely. Well,
I'm really
all the encouragement, because I honestly, man, I could listen to you talk forever. I could.
Hey, man,
this was great.
That's the world. Well, thanks a lot, and let me know. I don't think I said anything that would piss anybody off, so I'm happy to take a listen. But you can just press send.
Absolutely. If there's anything you want to promote, now's the time.
Come see us on the Hollyweird Part 2, leg 2. I believe it's through April, May, and or March, April. I'll have to look again, but you'll put the poster up on the
absolutely,
and we'll be everywhere. And keep an eye out for new record coming out maybe in 2026.
I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'd love to have you back on in the future.
Dude, let me know.
Absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much for sticking around, watching, listening. Make sure you go see them out on the road. They are incredible. Listen to the whole catalog. It's all amazing. Like he said, keep your ears out for a new record eventually. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll see you again.
Bye, bitch.